This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm very excited to be speaking with Matt Bomer about Fellow Travelers. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Can you tell me how you feel about Hawk as a person?
Well, as a person, I can really only look at him subjectively, and I don't know. I think he's kind of a badass, honestly. I think he's a renegade and an iconoclast, and he's bold in ways that I don't think I would have had the courage to be in the 1950s. He does obviously compartmentalize his life in many ways, and but it's only in an effort to survive. I think he suffered a great deal of tragedy early on in his life, and has learned to make decisions that protect his well-being. And he has a very specific plan for himself that's kind of a way to give a middle finger to a society that tells him that he's less than and not deserving of. And he anything that threatens that or him or anybody he loves, he'll make decisions about that might not seem like the kindest of decisions, but it's what enables him to survive. And I think there were a generation of men who had to make those choices if they wanted to, quote, succeed in the world and from a certain point of view.
Had you read the book, and what kind of research did you feel like you needed to do into the era?
Oh my gosh, I was so lucky because I've been with this project over 4 years now. Ron Nicewaner and Robbie Rogers brought me the book early on in the pandemic, and I read it in a couple of days and just fell in love with the characters and the world. And it was one of those books where I felt like I really got an amazing education about a lot of things, not because I was being taught or scolded or anything like that. It was because I fell in love with the characters and was sharing their lived experience of a very specific point in time in our history. I had a very peripheral understanding of the Lavender Scare, but I didn't understand what a lived experience of it was. And so, yeah, I fell in love with the characters right away, and thankfully had the luxury of time. For me, that I don't know. I think Stanislavski said he'd either rather have 6 months to rehearse a play or 6 days or something like that. I don't know what the exact quote is, but if I'm able to have the luxury of time on a project, I just feel like it's such a blessing because things can just kind of percolate in your subconscious, and um, you're able to just kind of look at the world in a way and find answers out in the world. I remember I've told this story before, but I was on a beach and there was a guy who had a falcon there, and the falcon's job was to like get rid of all the seagulls that came to the beach. And I was like, "Have you ever worked with a hawk?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Tell me about hawks." Because obviously I knew that Thomas Mallet had named this character Hawk for a reason. And he said, "Oh, hawks fly above everything and they look down on everything and just get the whole lay of the land. And then when they find something they want, they just zero in on it." And I thought that's a huge part of who this character is. So just having the luxury of time to let it percolate in ways like that was really informative. And thankfully, getting to do Maestro right before we started, and seeing Bradley and Carrie go through multiple decades as their characters and their love story, I was like, okay, all right, this like can be done. I mean, I'm not comparing myself in terms of talent to those folks, but I just knew I had visible proof in front of me that like you could do this. Telling a Aging in midlife is like one of the most challenging things as an actor, because it's not like you're going from spring bloom of youth to like hunched over in a cane. It's all, you're an adult the whole way through. And even as a 62-year-old, you're still very vibrant and alive. So um, it was it was an amazing challenge. And I'm really, really grateful that I had time to do all the research, not only in the time period, but how I was going to navigate and each decade, and building a backstory of 62 years before we even started the first scene in the 50s.
Definitely a very disorienting and immersive experience just watching the show the way it goes. Do you
Yeah.
have a particular moment of time for Hawk that you like best?
I mean, I like them all for different reasons. I think there was something I really loved about the 70s because we'd done 3 or 4 episodes in the 50s, and everything was so buttoned up and so repressed and so high stakes because, right there in the seat of government, and it's a love affair that's happening, and everything is just, political intrigue and just so tight. other than, you know, when they're able to express themselves and come together in intimacy. Um, and so the sort of, even though Hawk has this horrific, tragic secret that he's carrying the entire episode, which is such a gift to get to play as an actor, that basically there's just this huge open wound that's just below the surface that he's not going to acknowledge or give credence to in any way, but it also ultimately justifies any choice you make as an actor because he's not himself. But that, and also just the kind of bacchanalian freedom, drug-induced, alcohol-fueled freedom they were all playing around with in the 70s was just a great kind of dichotomy to get to play against and juxtapose against the 50s. So I don't know, that was a real gift to get to play that time period.
What can you say about working with Jonathan Bailey?
I mean, he's a dream co-star. He really is, and he made me better every day. We didn't like rehearse our scenes a lot. We didn't talk about things too much. He knew, I mean, we talked as friends, but he knew his character. I had an idea of what I wanted to bring to the table with mine, and we tried to let it all happen on film in the moment and not just pre-planned choices and just come in and execute. Like we really wanted it to all be happening in real time. And there were just so many times that what he brought to the character, I felt really helped what I was trying to do as Hawk. And you know, he lifted me up in scenes, and you know, hopefully we're both just there for each other in a really profound way. I think playing a connection like this over 35 years is a profound gift as an actor to get to do and get to share that with somebody. And to get to share that with somebody you really like and admire is kind of all you could ever really hope for, you know. And so I think in a way we're kind of bonded for life, um, like brothers, you know, just from going through this experience together.
The show has been very warmly embraced by a lot of viewers. What have you read, and has anything surprised you in what people have been saying about it?
I intentionally didn't read anything. This is one of those jobs. I did 96 out of 100 days. Two of the days I didn't do, I was filming additional photography on Maestro, and the other two I was flying internationally to go home for Thanksgiving. So it's not like I had like a real 4 days off. It was intense, and I really did give everything to it. I literally gave myself like 6 hours a week to just be myself. And everything else was just either devoted to working on the work for the next week or being in the character for 12 to 14 hours that day at work. So at the end of it, I honestly felt like I had left everything I had to give on the table. And I'm one of those people, I can read five nice things and one bad thing, and that will ruin my day. And so I just thought, why color this experience that I've had this great experience? And if you believe the good reviews, you got to believe the bad ones. And so just let it be what it is. And the great thing that's been the most moving for me is really interactions I've had with people on the street or at the grocery store or, you know, the subway stop in New York. You know, people see some aspect of their own humanity in one of the characters in this piece. They'll be like, oh, my friend's dad was a Hawk, or my aunt was a Lucy, or my cousin was a Tim, or whatever it is. They see, or I knew a Marcus. You know, it's like they see some aspect of their own human experience reflected in the characters. And to me, that's all you can ever hope for as an actor. That's the highest compliment you can hope for. And it really isn't a compliment to me or anybody else, to Ron, because he created these characters and he wrote them. So, but it's really gratifying to hear. It's not one of those jobs where people want to just say, "Oh, that was cool." Like they really want to. I've had people start crying. It's like people really want to go in depth about their experience of the show and how it relates to them, and that's just such an honor for me to get to hear and engage with.
That's really great. I mean, I've had the fortune of seeing you in a number of other projects where I feel like there's been, an emotional resonance also. And one that I think sticks out so much to me that I'm still not sure that many people have seen and are talking about is Doom Patrol. I think that is just such
Thank
a
you.
just on another plane, just so different. And I think what I'm most curious about, because we could do a whole separate interview about that show, is
Yeah.
what is it like to be part of that, but not your physical body, in all the scenes?
Oh, wow. It's pretty wild. I mean, I did get to go down and I was physically present for the first 2 or 3 episodes. So I did feel like I got to find the character physically before I did the voiceover, which was nice. And then, during the pilot, you're still kind of trying to find like how to convey this and how to make it all come across. And there's a dialogue with somebody else who's portraying you physically while you're doing the voice. And so to me, that collaboration was very important. And I had an open mind to Matt Zuck, who played my physical body. Anytime he had a question, it could be 2 in the morning, East Coast time. If he was like, "Hey, what do you think Larry would do here?" Like we could hash that out. But I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, actually, Doom Patrol is one of the reasons why I got this job because, Larry is somebody who is incredibly sexually repressed and has to come to terms with who he is in such a tragic way. And that's in the 60s. But Robbie Rogers saw that. And that's one of the reasons why he had the idea of me for Hawk.
I'm glad to hear that. I think he definitely does not have the boldness and the confidence of Hawk. I think that
Oh, no,
would have
he's
helped
the
a lot.
polar opposite in that regard, but he is also repressed in his own way.
All right. Well, there's so many other roles. I know White Collar was a big thing that I think, like Suits, seems to be taking on a much bigger life now than it did when it was on USA. What is it like to be, returning to the idea of that show? How does that feel at this point in your career?
I mean, that's my family, honestly. All those people are. I love that set. That was the most joyous set to be on. We used to get letters from people who would do guest spots like, "Hey, I just wanted to say that was the most fun set I've ever been on. You guys clearly love each other. You're having so much fun. Enjoy it all." Like that just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So it was such a rarefied thing. And like you're saying, it's had so many lives. This is the second time it's been on Netflix. It was one of the first shows ever acquired by Netflix. And so it had a second life there. Then it was on Disney. It was on Amazon. It was on Hulu. It's had all these lives, and so I feel like it's one of those projects that, in a weird way, slowly it kind of just spread like an ink dot, and it's still the one that most people want to talk to me about on the street or whatever it is, which I love. And I mean, if they want to come back and do that in a great way, I read the script that Jeff wrote for the revival. I think it's fantastic. I think it's completely tonally in line with everything we ever did on the show. He fell right back into the voice of the characters, and it's funny and charming and fun and intelligent, and the audience gets to feel intelligent, and it pays homage to Willie in a great way, which was like, obviously one of the huge linchpins for me in terms of like whether or not we were going to do this or not. And so, yeah, I think it has to be something different because so many of the key players have, it's just changed. We lost Willie, we lost Diane, so they have to reimagine it, and the audience has to be willing to pay homage to those characters with us and go on. And we'll see if Hulu wants to do it, we'll do it, and if not, I'm so happy and proud of what we were able to do with the 6 seasons we had.
Well, I know if I mentioned I was talking to you to either my wife or my sister, they would say, "That's Bryce Larkin." How much does Chuck occupy a space in your mind and your memories?
Not so much. In my memories in my mind, it's huge. I mean, I just remember being on that set, and actually, I think Jeff Easton, who wrote White Collar, had seen Chuck, and that's how I got in to audition for that. So everything, it's a domino effect. You got to just try to just stay in the game however you can. But yeah, I think the nice thing about that was I got to watch Zachary Levi. He was just a great number one on the call sheet. He was so generous of spirit to everyone around him, and set such a great tone on set and was on time. And I feel like when the star of the show, it sets that kind of precedent, nobody else can misbehave. And so it was just a really fun atmosphere to be on that set. And that was something that I tried to bring over to white collar in whatever way I could. And thankfully, I had Tim as my co-star and an incredible cast all around us who were all of the same point of view, who were just so fun. I mean, Tim makes me fall out laughing every single day that we work together. It's like getting to go and work with your best friend every day. And Willie was the same. I mean, Willie actually made me pee in my pants once from laughing so hard. That may be too much information for this podcast. I apologize, but
Let's do it. It's great.
that's I think that's the only time that's happened to me in my adult life. But yeah, I miss him terribly, obviously, and I love him forever. But it was just such a fun set to be on, and everybody did the work, but we also just had a blast and enjoyed being at work. So.
I was looking back through your credits, and I'm willing to bet that nobody has asked you about this probably since the show aired, and I hadn't thought about it until now, but then I remembered it. It's Traveler,
Traveler, yeah, good old
which I feel
Traveler.
was before Lost, before all these other like mystery shows, but sort of set the pattern a little bit there.
Yeah, that was back in the old Steve McPherson days at ABC, where like you had to have like 25 million viewers out of the gate, or you were just canned. It was a different time when network TV really reigned supreme. And I love that show. I remember doing my first scene with Viola Davis, though, who's still a friend of mine, and being like, "What are you doing on this show? You're a star. Like, why are you playing an FBI agent on this ABC show?" And then she called me after the show had been canceled, and we'd still hang out every now and again. She was like, "Matt, I got an audition for Doubt, or a screen test for Doubt." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to get it and you're going to win an Oscar." And I don't think she won the Oscar, but her whole career changed. And I know she was nominated. And but yeah, it was a great group of people, and just one of those things. I think we only got to do 8 episodes or something, but we had a blast. It was a good experience overall.
There's so much TV on your resume, but I was also thinking of a film I had a chance to see at Sundance a few years ago, Walking Out, which I thought was
Yeah,
its own kind of really immersive, mountainy experience.
that was as immersive as it gets. Josh Wiggins, who played my son in that, man, we had such a beautiful experience in that film. And I mean, that was real indie filmmaking. There were no cast chairs. There was no hair and makeup trailer. We were in like the back of uh, 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 well, I guess it was technically a trailer, but it barely had running water. And we just stood in the snow in between setups for the camera. Or sometimes we had an apple box we would sit on. So you were just in it the whole time. And God, it was just getting to work in an environment like that is just so informative as an actor. It does so much of the work for you, just taking in the space that's around you, and the nature, and the terrifying and beautiful aspects of the nature around you was a huge part of that movie. And I love that movie. I love working with those directors, and I hope we get to do it again sometime.
Was there anything you can share about what's coming up next for you?
Yeah, I was so lucky. I'd done uh well, obviously Fellow Travelers and Maestro and Doom Patrol, and I just thought I'd played and Boys in the Band before that, and The Sinner, and I was like, I've got to do a comedy. I just need to just I need to go to work and laugh. And I just got really lucky, Jonah Hill let me come and audition for his film, and I got to work on that with him. He and Keanu Reeves and Cameron Diaz were just the nicest, most incredible people, and we had such a fantastic time on that movie. I'm excited to see that, and I was just really grateful that I got to be a part of that. Jonah's an amazing director to work with, and to get to go and laugh a little bit, was really nice. And I just did a pilot with Nathan Lane and Nathan Lee Graham and Linda Lavin for Hulu for a comedy series that together called Mid-Century Modern. And so we'll see what happens with that. But obviously, I mean, some serious icons involved in that project. So, I mean, Nathan Lane was hugely like formative for me as a kid. Not even as a kid, I shouldn't say that. I don't want him to think I was a kid, but maybe teenager. And so I remember I used to read, it was a Terrence McNally play he did called Lisbon Traviata, and he was in the cover of the playbill. And I would read it in the closet of my drama club at school, and I did a scene from it. And it's like now I'm working with him, and I'm like, what is my life? Like, how am I getting to work with Nathan Lane? This is crazy. So yeah, lots to be grateful for, and we'll see what else happens. And mostly I'm just thankful. Honestly, look, Hawk was like the role of a lifetime. It's like such a gift as an actor to get to play a role like this, and to get to have the responsibility and the honor of getting to play someone's life for 35 years and to tell, this beautiful, difficult, but ultimately life-affirming love story was just such a gift. And I'm just so grateful that we live in a world where we got to make this project. It's might not have happened 10 years ago, and I'm very optimistic about our future, but democracy is fragile, and I hope that we get to continue to make projects like this. And I'm just so thankful that we got to do it the way we did.
Well, before I let you go, we've talked about a lot of great projects you've been in, but we love awards here at Awards Buzz. And I'm curious if you've seen anything else not starring you that you found to be particularly awards worthy recently.
Oh my gosh, recently, I think I've just been mostly in summer fare. I obviously saw all the Oscar films from last year. I've seen a lot of the episodic things that are nominated. Even
TV,
stuff,
that's good TV.
even stuff in my category that I love. I only saw the first 2 hours of Baby Reindeer, but I thought that was really an interesting story. Um, what else did I love? I mean, I love Only Murders in the Building. I mean, Steve Martin and Marty Short are like, I mean, come on, doesn't get any better than that. Yeah, I think that's about it. When I'm working, it's weird. Like I kind of only watch like 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 Baby Einstein kind of stuff. Like I watch like nature documentaries, and I don't want to think about work when I'm not, if I'm working 14 hours a day. And I don't want anything else that I see to suddenly play in or on a performance that I'm trying to give. I'm trying to like closely protect the pocket that I'm in, I guess. It's a weird superstition, but I'm looking forward to, I actually have some free time starting when we finish today. So I'm looking forward to finally getting into some TV, although I'm an Olympics addict. So all my Emmy nominations are going to the Olympics so far this year.
Well, happy watching. Thank you so much, Matt, for your time, and looking
It's
forward
good
to
to
everything you're
talk
doing
to
next.
you. Thanks, Abe. I look forward to talking to you. Thanks for appreciating all the deep cuts, man. That's always great to hear.
All right, thanks so much, Matt.
All the best to you, okay?
All right,
Thanks for
take
having me.
care. Thanks again.